Maybe, who did you replace? Oh, maybe Dave Burchett.
Yeah. I call the February 28, 2022 Ludington City Council meeting to order. Welcome and thank you for your attendance. Before we proceed, please check your electronic devices and ensure they are silenced. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Counselor Truzano,
Present.
Counselor May,
Here.
Counselor Winchesky,
Here.
Counselor Johnson,
Here.
Counselor Stibbits,
Here.
Counselor Kane,
Present?
Counselor Bulger,
Here.
all present.
Thank you. In lieu of an invocation, please join me in 20 seconds of silence and self-reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll open the floor for public comment, and I request anyone wishing to address council, please step to the lectern, speak directly into the microphone and proceed after stating your name and address. Each speaker is allotted 3 minutes. Please address all comments to this chair. There will be another public comment opportunity following communication from city officials. The floor is open.
My name is Jana Rose and my address is 925 South Washington Avenue. I'm here again to ask the council to vote to turn off the air raid siren. I watched the last city council meeting online and 2 others regarding the siren that was installed in August of 2021. I've heard Mrs. Winchesky ask about the cost of the siren no less than 4 times. I can tell you that it costs nothing to turn it off. I've heard a lot of stalling from the city. Per your request, I contacted your attorney within an hour of being asked, yet nobody got back to me after we spoke. I heard Ms. Stibbits lie on record, stating the siren lasts only 17 seconds, yet in close proximity, like my apartment and the Pierpoint condos, the noise lasts 34 seconds. What I haven't heard mentioned is that half the city probably doesn't even hear the siren because it's barely audible standing outside on Ludington Avenue. I spent 2 months trying to contact Ms. Stibbits as my representative after the siren was installed to explain how detrimental the sound is to the people who live directly next to it. Months later, Christmas Day, out of the blue, Ms. Stibbits finally contacted me to say that she would not allow me to further explain Mr. Rose's position because I was a judgmental sinner. She also explained that she is highly educated in the field of mental health and specializes in the area of PTSD and combat veterans. So this leads me to the question, where is your humanity? Per your stated qualifications, Ms. Stibbits, you know exactly what kind of symptoms the siren is causing, Mr. Rose. We live in a country that cries out about the lack of mental health accessibility and understanding when a tragedy strikes, but you as a council member and a self-proclaimed mental health expert has turned a deaf ear to this United States veteran. We're blessed to live in a country where we don't have to worry about artillery falling from the sky or our government being overthrown by a nuclear superpower. We know our armed service members are out there protecting us. Mr. Rose was shot, blown up, and wiped the blood and brains of his fellow soldiers off of his face. Yet still, he did his duty to protect our country. In most parts of the world, an air raid siren means taking cover. Danger is on the way. Mr. Rose woke up to that siren for nights on end to run to his bunker. Yet he comes home and his only ask is to not be reminded of the brutality of war every night. People like Ms. Stibbits and Ms. Winchesky turn a total deaf ear. All you want to know about is, and I quote, "How much is a potential claim worth?" There is no governmental purpose for the siren, and yet you can continue to permit it to disrupt the lives of those you have located it near. Mr. Rose has not had a decent night's sleep since August. Mr. Wally Kane has been the only one to show any respect for our request, and for that I am grateful. I had to be represented by legal counsel just to get this issue taken seriously. My attorney has put our position regarding the Americans with Disability Act and the Federal Fair Housing Act in front of you. We don't want to have to take it further, but we will. I will leave you with this plea: stop holding an inanimate object above the lives of human beings. I'm embarrassed by the fact that my community can't look past the ways we've always done things and realize that people mean more than objects. Ms. Stibbits, I am a sinner, just as you have pointed out, but God didn't put us on this earth to point out others' sins. He put us in charge of loving and caring about our neighbors as ourselves. Please turn off the siren. Ms. Stibbits, your polls mean nothing when you flat out refuse to hear anyone with an opposing opinion. Our complaint is not the only one that you've heard, even though it is the first to be backed by the Federal Fair Housing Act and the Americans with Disabilities Act. It is apparent from news articles that there are others in similar situations. I'm not going to let this issue go until I see my community begin to take mental health seriously and understand that a human life means more than an inanimate object. Thank you.
Out of concern for the issue before us, Ms. Rose, I want to make sure you got to finish your statement. But I also want to advise everyone else that comments made to particular counselors are not going to be allowed. All comments are addressed to this chair. If you'd like me to address them, I will, but direct comments to another counselor are not allowed. Floor is still open for comment.
George Peterson, Danaher Street. I'm too a veteran. I moved back here after I retired. And, you know, I wrote this. When I moved back here, the curfew whistle, I'm not sure where this air siren thing came from, but it's always been a curfew whistle when I growing up here. And it was something special to us. You know, it's part of our, small town DNA. Getting rid of all these small things like this, it just kind of makes us a carbon copy of every other little small town on the coast. And I don't know. It's disappointing when we start erasing our history here in town. Thank you.
Chuck Samansky, 201 and a half 4th Street, Ludington, Michigan. 83 years old. I like the siren. If you stop the siren in Copian Park, will the 4th of July parade, the fireworks, and the music down at the city marina be next? Seems like we all have something we can bitch about. I hope you don't change the way the siren comes on because of a threat of a lawsuit. Maybe I should be concerned about blocking the city sidewalks with tables and chairs at our city businesses. I just wonder why this issue has come to the full board after it has been through committees, and about 4 months ago, we're still going on this. Don't we have anything better to do? Thank you.
Hello, I'm Gary Lang, 108 3rd Street in Ludington. Corner of 3rd Street and Washington Avenue. I can throw a stone from my house and hit the top of the siren. So you know it's kind of loud. But the thing is, I grew up with the siren. I've been a fire department member for 45 years. If anybody should object to the siren going off, it should be me. But I don't. I love it for one reason. My kids grew up with that. When I lived on Third Street, I was probably 2 blocks away from the siren. When it went off at 10 o'clock, I knew my kids were home and they were safe in the house. And at 12 o'clock noon, when the siren went off, that means don't go downtown right away because everybody else is out for lunch and there's cars all over the place. So I really grew into that siren. I would hate to see anybody take that siren away. I really do. It's part of the community. It's part of our lives. And that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Tom Sanders, Maple Street. We've seen an attempt to remove the cross in Buttersville. We've seen the foghorn out here. No longer sounds like it used to. When it got foggy, it came on, and you could hear it through this whole town. Now you have to hit your radio if you're a boater out there and you want to use it. And the sound is completely different. If the city doesn't fight this, and at least get an answer legally, what's next? Car ferries coming in the harbor, they have no reason to sound that horn when they dock. None. They're not required to. It's just, they do it. Car ferries used to have their own signature horn. Each one had its own sound, told their families they're home. Somebody buys the Loomis Street Cottage and says, I don't like that. I don't want to hear that at 7 o'clock in the morning when that damn boat's going out here. I want it stopped. Do we shut that down? I think the city needs to fight this in court. Y'all need to get a judgment on it from somewhere, because to shut it off is just wrong.
Tom Rada, Dowland Street. 1 year ago, the council openly debated at multiple meetings the topic of bringing the curfew siren back and where to place it if they did. The issue was discussed on multiple local social media sites quite extensively. My Facebook franchise even ran a poll which indicated that over 80% of the 400 respondents wanted the siren back in town. This council ultimately chose Copian Park as its location, and this was broadcast in multiple media outlets. In the 6 months between that choice and the siren's installation, there was zero controversy about the decision. Had the city been secretive about its intentions to bring back the siren or about its location, we should be more sympathetic towards the Pierpoint condo owners and Nathaniel Rose for their expressed disquietude with the siren. But their absence in the debate in this chamber and the internet over those months before money was spent to install the siren should indicate that the city's position is strong. A lot stronger than when they frequently operated against the Open Meetings Act in placing the splash pad in Copian Park and were sued for those violations by 2 citizens. What makes better sense is that the city should, whenever practicable in the future, follow the same zoning laws that they enforce on private individuals. If I put a siren capable of being heard throughout the city on my roof, or erected a huge splash pad in my backyard, I would have to go through the planning commission, who would send out notices to nearby properties and hold a public hearing to allow those individuals and others to voice their support or concerns. If a truly open process is followed, your legal liability is low. Let's consider that if the quiet enjoyment of your property is going to be affected by noise coming from new construction on a neighboring lot, you should have a process and a way to voice your concerns, whether it's private or public property that the noise will come from. Thank you.
Good evening, council. Dave Bridgette, Scottville, US 10 Scottville. Obviously, I have no iron in the fire. Everybody, I think I've made it very well known how I feel about the siren. The one thing I just want to bring to the council's attention, and I've been advised that it wasn't anything wrong that you guys did, but I felt it was incorrect to skip this from committee before we brought it to council. I know it's been discussed before, but I feel it's a disrespectful thing to take it away from the chair and not at least give the public another opportunity to come in and speak about it. And again, it's not something I'm not going to say if it's right or wrong where it's at, how long it's right, how long it's ringing or anything like that. I felt you should know that I just felt it was a little disrespectful. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak during public comment? I see none. I'll close public comment and move on to the approval of the consent agenda, which tonight consists of the approval of the council minutes of the February 14th, 2022 regular meeting, the approval of the council minutes of the February 14th, 2022 committee of the whole, the approval of bill payment for the period commencing February 14th, 2022, and the adoption of this agenda as presented. Do I have a motion to approve this consent agenda?
So moved.
I'll support.
Motion by Counselor Terzano, seconded by Counselor Stibbits to approve the consent agenda as presented. Council, we have any questions or additions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? This motion is carried. Next up, we have committee and staff reports, hearing first from Finance and Personnel. Counselor Johnson?
I've got a couple items here, Your Honor. No report tonight. The first item, we need to approve an amendment to poverty exemption policy. Public Act 253 of 2020, signed into law December 23rd, 2020, made changes to the poverty exemption statute. The statute requires local units to annually adopt a policy, including an asset test used to approve or deny poverty exemptions. The Board of Review has addressed very few poverty exemption appeals over the past several years. By approving the amendment to the city's poverty exemption policy, this will ensure uniformity and equity in granting these exceptions. And I move to approve the updated City of Ludington poverty exemption policy.
I'll second.
Motion by Counselor Johnson, seconded by Counselor Winchesky to approve the updated City of Ludington poverty exemption policy as presented. Council, have you any questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? This motion's carried.
And the other item I have is to approve change order for the Loomis Street restrooms and fish cleaning station. As the construction of the new bathroom at the Loomis boat launch was occurring, they noticed the need for an additional outdoor spigot and some additional conduit on site. These costs were not anticipated during the initial building of the project and thus require the change order. This is an increase in costs of $1,622, which will be paid for out of the general fund. I move to approve the change order for Loomis Street boat launch bathrooms.
Support?
Second.
Motion by Counselor Johnson, second by Counselor Terzano to approve the change order for the Loomis Street boat launch bathrooms as presented. Any questions or additions, council? All those in favor signify by saying aye. And opposed? Motion's carried.
And that's all I have for this evening, Your Honor.
Thank you. Public Safety, Public Utilities, Counselor May.
Your Honor, at the last committee meeting, I wasn't present. Commissioner Bulger held the meeting for me, so I'm going to allow him to deal with the repercussions.
I appreciated the honor that was extended. Actually, I think he was pointing at Counselor Johnson, but he ducked. So I get to give the report tonight. I don't have any report to make other than to note that we conducted this at the Ludington Fire Station. And especially if you were familiar with the prior station, this is a wonderful improvement that is going to serve the city well for a lot of years. And if you haven't seen it, it's definitely worth taking a look at. The first action item is to approve an agreement with Morgan Composting. The city, as you all know, picks up leaves in the fall and takes them to our property north of Bryant and east of the cemetery. This is actually a state of Michigan regulated compost facility monitored by Eagle. In the very near future, there's going to be more stringent regulation imposed, which among other things would require draining off wastewater that's a necessary part of the composting function. Eagle recommended Morgan Composting, which among other things would remove the excess material presently on site, and secondly, maintaining the facility in years to come, which, while it will cost us the contract amount, will save considerable effort by city maintenance staff. So with that, I would move that the council approve the agreement drafted by attorneys Hammersley with Morgan Composting.
I will support that, Your Honor.
Motion by Counselor Bolger, seconded by Counselor Johnson to, forgive me for paraphrasing your words here, but approve the agreement between the City of Ludington and Morgan's Composting to operate and manage the city leaf drop-off area as presented. Council, do we have any questions, comments?
I have just a couple things to make note. In the contract, I see that we have the contract for 5 years, which is nice to have that locked in. And at the end of that term, there's an option for another 5-year term. So congratulations, committee, on doing that. I think that's important. Another point to make is that the City of Ludington will continue to recycle leaves. And I think that's real important too. We're just not disposing of them, but they're actually going to be recycled. So thanks for taking care of that. And it's good to carry on with that.
So, Your Honor, I might also point out that Morgan Composting actually uses this material for, not insulation, basically their brand name is Dairy Dew. So I think that roughly explains the fertilizer that they turn it into. So this is actually ecologically a step up from just having the stuff piled up on our backyard here.
I have a question for the city attorney. This is a 5-year contract, and this is the first time we're doing business with Morgan Composting. What happens if we don't like what they're doing after 1 or 2 years? Are we tied in for the full 5 years, or is there an out?
There are outs. There are, if you look on page 4, there are several items that give rise to the city's option to terminate the contract. And so those are built in. If you'd like, if that's not sufficient, if there are other issues, I mean, we can modify this. This was based on effectively not a back of the napkin, but a number of provisions sort of suggested, and this was, what we developed. But if it's not sufficient, if you don't think that there's enough of an out, we can add something additional in, but there is in that default portion, it's paragraph 11. It actually runs from page 4 onto page 5. So it's kind of a lengthy portion of the agreement, but primarily, if there's a unpaid invoice, or if there are practices that they're not following that are required by Eagle or otherwise, there are a number of different triggers that the city would be allowed to essentially terminate the contract at will. So it's not locked in fully for 5 years with an automatic renewal. The city has options here.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, or comments? This is a motion to approve the agreement between the City of Ludington and Morgan's Composting to operate and manage the leaf drop-off area as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
The second action item is approving an amendment to the Fishbeck Engineering Agreement for work done on the wastewater treatment plant improvements. Essentially, the work is done on both the basic services and project observation parts of the contract, and Amendment 2 documents the changes, which actually results in freeing up some funds as the amendment actually reduces the total amount of the contract. So I would move that the council approve Amendment 2 to the agreement with Fishbeck Engineering for wastewater treatment plant improvements.
I'll support.
Motion by Counselor Bulger, seconded by Counselor Stibbits to approve Amendment Number 2 to the owner-engineer agreement for the City of Ludington's 2018 wastewater treatment plant improvements project, thus reducing overall costs of these services provided by Fishbeck, Thompson, Carr, and Huber, Inc. by a total of $276,805.96. As presented. Council, we have any questions or concerns? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion is carried. Thank you. Anything further, Counselor?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Counselor May, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, sir, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank
How
you.
did he do, Ted?
He did well enough to do it again.
Thank you, sir.
Building and licenses, long-range planning, Counselor Terzano.
I have no report, and no action item tonight.
Thank you. Cemetery, Parks, and Recreation, Counselor Stibbits.
Thank you. I have no report and no action items as well.
Move on to communication from city officials. Anything from city council?
I have just one thing tonight, Mayor. Coffee with the counselors will be this Thursday, March 3rd at noon, 12 o'clock at the Bookmark, and Counselors Bulger and Trezano will be there. Thanks.
Thank you. No city manager present this evening for a city manager's report. The only item I have on the agenda, it states decision on fire siren. And I'm going to ask for a 5-minute recess real quickly while I confer with the city attorney. Council stands in recess until 7:05.
I was thinking I should have said something about what we did about.
Council back in session. Thank you. The final agenda item is a decision on the future of the 12 noon, 10 p.m. fire siren. At our last council meeting, this issue was directed to be debated upon by the full council at tonight's meeting. Before I open the floor to council's discussion, I'd like to offer a limited history of the topic of the reinstallment, reconnection of the fire siren. Siren was erected in its old downtown location on the corner of Robert Loomis Streets before 1970 and was disconnected April 30th, 2019. For context, I've referenced the minutes of the open meetings of the Parks and Rec Committee and those of City Council commencing in December of 2020. Between the two, including our last council meeting of February 14th, mentions of the fire siren appear 15 times in those minutes. In addition, through the avenues of social media, print media, and local radio, the siren has been an ongoing public debate for years. After multiple opportunities for public input, in addition to considerable committee and council debate, the decision to raise the siren at Copian Park was approved by City Council March 22nd, 2021, and reactivated in August of that same year. The first mention of the siren and its relevance to the issue it presents to Mr. Rose came during public comment of the December 6th, 2000 City Council meeting. The Roses also addressed their concerns before December 21st Park and Rec Committee meeting. The Roses are on record during both of those aforementioned meetings as willing to compromise, keeping the siren at 12 noon, eliminating it at 10 p.m. I believe it is in order for the public to hear from each counselor, and I want to open the floor for discussion.
Your Honor,
Yes?
I would move that the council go into closed session to consider the written legal opinion from City Attorney Hammersley about the Copian Park siren pursuant to Section 8H of the Open Meetings Act.
And I'll second that.
To go into closed session, this is one of the 11 closed session purposes. To go into closed session, we need a roll call vote and a 2/3 majority. We have I'll leave it at that. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Counselor May,
Aye.
Counselor Prodger,
Yes.
Counselor Johnson,
Yes.
Counselor Stibbits,
Yes.
Counselor Truzano,
Aye.
Counselor Winchevsky,
Yes.
Counselor Kane.
No.
6 ayes, 1 nay.
Motion is carried. We will go into closed session. At this point, I would appreciate council approving the attendance at this closed session to include the clerk, Luskin, City Attorney Hammersley, all of City Council, and including the mayor.
What about the chief?
Chief, you have a input on this? You want to stay? Include the chief of police. I didn't want to drag you into something you weren't really prepared for.
If I may, Your Honor, just clarification, we're just discussing the memo.
That's
Yes.
correct.
Correct. No vote on this. In closed sessions, votes are not allowed.
Right.
Assisted to the city manager, Stucco, would you stay also, just in case we need reference to city manager's office? All right, close this session. We will return after a closed session right now. This session is closed. We'll reconvene in closed session in a moment.
Your Honor, I make a motion that we go back into open session.
I'll support that motion.
Motion by Counselor Tuzano, second by Counselor Stibbs to go back into open session. Any comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are back in open session. Still working on the decision on the fire siren. Counselor Kane, I hate to keep putting you on the spot, but it was your motion to bring this discussion to full council, and I'll offer you the first opportunity to speak to the matter.
I will make a motion on the floor to instruct the city attorney to negotiate with the Roses.
Support.
Motion by Counselor Kane, seconded by Counselor Bulger to instruct the city attorney to pursue settlement with the Roses on the matter of the fire siren. Any questions or concerns? It is. As a matter of fact, we are open now for those kind of comments.
Okay, so I did receive a letter. It came through messenger service, and it's from Justine Parks. She didn't give an address, but I know she does live in the 3rd Ward. And her letter reads this: Growing up in Ludington was exceptionally special thanks to the wonderful people and traditions our community has kept over the years. Over the last 15 years, I have seen several businesses leave, relocate, or altogether run out of business. This saddens me as I now have my own children to raise in this beautiful town I get to call home. Reminiscing those days in my youth when I knew I had better be home before 10 p.m. when the old fire siren's melodious howl could be heard from miles around is one of the cherished memories now shared with my children. It is such a neat thing to have as part of our community. It often reminds me of who I am, where I come from, and the life I have lived, which has gotten me to where I am now in my adult years. I strongly believe that Ludingtonians are unique in character. We possess a passion that other communities lack, whether it be displayed when planting petunias along Ludington Avenue or composing a letter to ensure local landmarks are preserved. We are a fervent breed. We take pride in our history and come together on our own accord to take care of our beloved town. These traditions, landmarks, and the people who strive to conserve them are what makes Ludington one of the best places to be. Sincerely, Justine Parks.
Any other comments or concerns?
I guess I'd just like to explain what we're looking at here right now. We're voting on whether to ask our attorney to get together with the Roses to still look at the situation. So that's what we're looking at right now. We're voting to allow our attorney to negotiate with the Roses on this situation some more. So it's not to turn it off or to keep it on, it's to negotiate further yet.
Ross, is that an appropriate explanation of what we're doing here?
I believe that's
Good?
consistent with
Okay.
the motion that
Yes,
Counselor
okay,
May made,
good.
so.
The motion is to direct the city attorney to pursue a
I'm
settlement.
sorry, Counselor Kane. Sorry.
It's okay.
Motion is to direct city attorney to pursue a settlement with the Roses in regards to the fire siren. Motion by Counselor Kane, seconded by Counselor Bulger. Any other comment?
One more, can I instruct the city attorney to do this in the next couple of weeks so that this gets finalized at the next city council meeting?
I'll contact the Rose's attorney tomorrow.
Best effort to get it done
And I'll speak with Ms. Rose this evening.
within the next 2 weeks so we can vote on it on the 14th.
Absolutely.
Motion is to direct the city attorney to pursue a settlement with the Roses for the fire station. Any other comments? All those in favor of directing the city attorney to pursue a settlement with the Roses regarding the fire siren signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
No.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Counselor Stibbits?
No.
Counselor Kane?
Aye.
Counselor May?
No.
Counselor Winchesky,
Yes.
Counselor Terzano,
No.
Counselor Pulcher,
Yes.
and Counselor Johnson.
No.
4 noes, 3 ayes.
And there's the answer. Council have any comment? Then we'll move on to public comments. Anyone wishing to address the council, please step to the lectern and proceed after stating your name and address. Please speak directly into the microphone and direct all comments to this chair. Each speaker is allotted 2 minutes, and the floor is open. I see no one wish to make comment during public comment session. Move on to miscellaneous business. Does council have anything further to add before I ask for a motion to adjourn?
I have one really good thing tonight. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and the District 10 Health Department have entered the post-surge recovery phase of the COVID-19 pandemic and have withdrawn the public health advisory on masking in indoor public settings. The Health Department recommends that individuals, regardless of vaccination status, practice universal masking when in high-risk conjugate settings, such as long-term care facilities, homeless shelters, correction facilities, and healthcare facilities. It is also important that a mask be worn during isolation and quarantine periods to help prevent the spread of COVID-19. The COVID-19 pandemic is not over yet, said Kevin Hughes, the Health Department officer for Health Department number 10. However, with the downward trends in cases and our increased access to masks, vaccines, testing, and treatments, it is time to begin the recovery phase. But be aware, Mason County is still considered in the high community transmission ranking, so still be careful. Just to give you some statistics, on February 3rd, our percent positivity rate was 41.26%. Today, 17.74%. That's a 57% decrease. So good news on that.
Your Honor, I do have one thing to bring up. The past couple meetings, Mr. Rada has spoke out against the volunteer firemen that we put on our fire department. And I got some information. I'm on the Michigan Works Board. And I did get some information from them. They have a program through MDOC, Michigan Department of Corrections. And on a normal year, they have between 1,100 and 1,500 parolees that go through their program. I believe that's state numbers. And if they are chosen or designated to go through this program, they can receive several services like housing, employment, social supports, counseling, and things like that. One program that they have is to train people that want to be truck drivers. And the parolees that have enrolled in that, they've had a 96% success rate. And so I just want to make it aware that the person that Mr. Rada is talking about, he hasn't gone through this program, but he has a lot of support from the firefighters. They've all said that he's doing a good job, and they're all behind him 100%. And I feel it's only fair that we give him a second chance. There are rules in place that he has to abide by. And so far, from what we've heard from the volunteer firemen, that he has been a model volunteer. He's trying to make his life better. And I feel that we should try to help him succeed with that. And I guess if you wanted to look at the MDOC, I think it's, I can't remember what it's called now.
It was called offender success.
Offender success. There you go. Thank you. But they have information on that, and it's very interesting to hear some of these stories from those people. So I hope that we can give this guy a chance without attacking him for what he's been through.
If I may, Your Honor, just to follow up on that. I was part of that program for several years for the organization that I worked for, and I counseled high-risk parolees in 4 counties, Mason, Lake, Newaygo, and Oceana County. And it is an extraordinary program. And it is about helping individuals who have made major mistakes in their lives. There wasn't one client that I had who was a first-time offender. You're talking about people with multiple offenses, multiple years incarceration, who are in the process of trying to turn things around. So the program he's talking about has been pretty good.
Thank you, Counselor. Anyone else have anything to offer? Then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I'll support.
Motion by Counselor Stibbits, seconded by Counselor May to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. For your attendance and your participation, this meeting is adjourned.
Want a lifesaver? You wanna-